Hello, my name is Bella Martelado, and my speech is called Abuse Hidden in the Norm. 100 years ago, genetically engineering animals was a possibility far from any human mind. Yet today, it is a reality. From cloning to the manipulation of already present genes, not only is it possible, but it's also common. However, as we venture into this unknown territory, not enough is being done to protect the lives we're taking with us, nor to respect the limits and boundaries that are set up by other people. The altering of nature is never something we should take lightly, and genetically modifying animals is not an exception. Because of this, it is ethically wrong to genetically engineer animals because it can easily lead to animal abuse. It may go against moral and religious beliefs, and it will ultimately lead to genetically engineering humans. One of the most important concerning factors of this intervention is the welfare of the animals involved. Not only are these procedures incredibly invasive, but there is also a large number of animals required to complete them. An article stated, genetic engineering technology has numerous applications involving companion, wild, and farm animals, and animal models used in scientific research. With the number of animals being used increasing with every advancement, it becomes easier to forget the welfare and the rights of these animals, and it becomes easier to just pursue the goal. It's incredibly important to establish ethical limits before beginning these experiments. However, many aren't doing so and simply won't. A person against the practice stated, in manufacturing organs, the existence of these animals would be miserable. In order to cultivate such organs, the animals would need to be in a lab setting and would more than likely never see the light of day. I can't ethically say that I would agree with such a practice. If in the most common and respected practices animal abuse is reported, an example being dairy farms, how much more unfair treatment will occur in something highly experimental? Sadly, many don't even realize these ethical factors, and they choose to simply pass a blind eye, while the people who speak against it are little in number. There are so many people who will take advantage of a situation like this, given not only a helpless creature, but also the opportunity to play God. Whether one believes in a God or not, the question has always arisen whether it is right to manipulate nature. If you ask those with religious beliefs, they will tell you that we should never and have no right to change that which we never made in the first place, and that doing so won't bring forth good results. After taking various surveys, an article stated, about 3 in 10 of those who said genetic engineering of mosquitoes would be taking technology too far explained that humankind would be disrupting nature and or interfering with God's plan. History, religious teaching, and so much more has warned us of the consequences that genetic altering animals can bring. However, the promise of a better future has blinded us. There will always be those who worry about things that can go wrong and who will never be at peace with the ever-increasing list of possible consequences. Ethical issues, including concerns for animal welfare, can arise at all stages in the generation and lifespan of an individual genetically engineered animal. An article stated, the CCAC works to an accepted ethic of animal use in science, which includes the principles of the 3 R's. However, despite the steps taken to minimize pain and distress, there's evidence of public concerns that go beyond the 3 R's and animal welfare regarding the creation and use of genetically engineered animals. See, it's not necessary to follow a religion to see how this would affect nature's balance. Yet for those who do, there's even more reason to speak against it. The practice presented is largely ethical, seeing as there's so many elements that could lead to positive and negative results. But because of these ethical factors, these problems are never easy to solve. Yet, why tamper with fire at all? As we alter the reality given to us, we're bound to push limits, which will ultimately lead to a disaster. Through technology, genetic engineering has allowed for hearts to be repaired using animal organs and food to be seemingly more nutritious than before by the manipulation of animal genes. Mosquitoes or are not spreading disease rapidly, and dying pets are no longer a problem. See, it's easy to think of all these possible benefits that genetic engineering can bring, but what would happen when animals' organs are no longer effective and the creatures being altered start to affect their ecosystem negatively? Would you change your mind when scientists decide that humans need to become part of their experiments? An article stated, "The new genome editing techniques that have been developed, although vastly more accurate and efficient, are still not without some element of uncertainty. Any potential clinical application will certainly need to take into account the levels of risk that might be involved in the use of genome editing procedures, and more scientific work will undoubtedly need to define what the risks are and how they can be managed. This practice is a gamble in so many ways that the negative outweighs the positive. Not only will this research stay largely experimental, but it will never be stable enough to say that it's making real change. Soon enough, people will become part of the experiments because animal genes won't be enough, or they just won't be useful." An article for Genetic Engineering stated, "People who might have been helped by the development of these technologies will suffer as a result of our failure to act. An ethical approach to risk requires us to evaluate the possible consequences of both action and inaction, and to realize that we are responsible for harms caused by the latter as well as the former. However, if we continue to research and experiment genetic engineering, we will not only add to the consequences of action, but we will also add to the consequences of inaction. By stopping the practice now, we guarantee that we don't hurt anybody or anything by taking action, and we also guarantee that there will be no more to add to our consequences of inaction. Once we do this, all that's left is dealing with the problems that we've already created." All in all, technology is ever advancing and at a fast rate, genetic engineering being its newest curiosity. Less than a century ago, the things we have accomplished today were not even formed as a thought. In a race for wealth, for power, and for success, if this newfound knowledge were to be left in the wrong hands, it would be a disaster. As we search our minds for the correct limits and for the correct boundaries we should set on genetic engineering, there are people who are abusing of the innocent and already pushing way past any ethical limit. The only right thing left to do now, presented this situation, is to stop the practice completely until the right limits and boundaries can be agreed upon and set. Honestly, it doesn't seem like that'll happen anytime soon, but is that necessarily a negative thing? The practice of genetic engineering will only bring imbalance, and in this age, especially in this year of 2020, we need to strive to maintain the balance already given to us. Thank you so much.